running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hello. My name is Elton Brewington. I'm with Brightside Global Trade TV and with Claire Miskett Brewington. And we're delighted to have you back with us where we have a featured guest and Trish Ahjel Roberts. Yeah, very good. And she's written a book called Mind Blowing Happiness. And we're so incredibly excited about her book and what she's going to share those aspects and details with us. And before she begins, here we go. Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays!
And Happy New Year 2022, if you're watching in 2022.
So take that minute to make sure that we can spread and expand and explore a great holiday season for everybody who's participating. So, Trish, share with us. Introduce yourself to us.
Yes, so my name is Trish Ahjel Roberts, and I wrote a book called 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness, a journal of insights, quotes, and questions to juice up your journey. And my background, it's funny because before the gentleman was talking about technology. So I started off in corporate sales in telecom. I have an MBA. I became a yoga and meditation instructor and then started studying Buddhism. And through this whole path, I was learning so many things that I reached a point. I had a car accident in 2018 where my car was totaled. And I just thought that it was a sign that I was supposed to switch course and teach these things that I had been learning for so many years to other people. So in 2020, I decided, I was changing careers and I was planning to host this huge retreat out here in Atlanta where I live. But then of course, 2020 happened to all of us, right? So that didn't happen. In the process though, I wrote down my 12 steps. Part of it came in a dream, because I think a lot of times when our minds are settled, that's when we're the smartest. So I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, wrote down these 10 steps. And in 2020, I published my self-help memoir. It's called, do I have it here? It's called Thinking Outside the Chrysalis, A Black Woman's Guide to Spreading Her Wings. So it teaches the 12 steps. What happened when I was teaching it was I realized that the 12 steps were really this path to self-actualization. And that's not a word that you hear a lot about unless you kind of studied Maslow's need hierarchy, and you know that it's sort of a path for, it kind of ingrained in all of us, this desire to have this sense of deep joy and fulfillment. So it started with initially the memoir, and then my readers were asking me for kind of more space to work through the steps, and then it became the journal. So that's a long answer and kind of my introduction to how I ended up writing this book about happiness.
Well, no, I mean, amazing in that you have come to realize yourself through experience, but you made the point, when your mind is made up, things get easier. A big deal. I mean, that means that's saying that now I don't have to worry about the question of why I'm doing something. I've already decided to do it. So all I have to do is navigate. That's an amazing philosophy. I get that. I understand that, because if you're doubling up on making up your mind, that takes 80% of your time, because every decision going to have to go through that little filter. Do I do this? Do I want to do? I mean, but once you've made up your mind, just shove it to the filter, man. You don't have to go to the filter no more. Just do it. Figure out how to do it.
You mean making up your mind about your career?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, about anything, actually. You have to make up your mind that this is going to be the way that it is, and that's that. Work through what you're doing and figure out all kinds of solutions. Life is a balancing act in a lot of ways. And so it is. So, and your perceptions and descriptions of the book, what would you like for the authors and the readers and the buyers of your book to take away from your read or your authorship?
So for me, I think this concept of self-actualization or mind-blowing happiness is incredibly important, because we live in a world where there are a lot of problems. There's violence, people doing harm to each other. We have a lot of self-harm, People don't necessarily feel good about themselves. Sometimes I think that the people with the loudest voices are the ones who don't have the best intentions. And then the people with great intentions don't have the confidence to have the loudest voices. So my goal, and it's kind of a big goal, and it's one person at a time, is for each person to identify their deepest levels of joy, their levels of creativity, really reaching their highest levels of potential. Because if each one of us could reach our highest levels of potential, like the people in this room are doing, right? We could actually shift the trajectory of the world that we live in, as opposed to what many believe is us going down the wrong path. People who are happy and full of joy don't hurt other people and do a lot of the things that are concerns for our cities and our countries, and our world in its entirety. So I could talk about some of the steps, and then I do have resources for your audience to access.
Very good, very good. I'd love for you to share with us briefly, as best you can, about some of those steps so that we come to understand. Because, as it's described and defined, here we are, I don't know, and I'm a little twisted about this. Our entire country and the world has gone through COVID. Now, you've got to rethink and remake yourself in terms of what that means. It's a transformation of sorts. So now how do you cultivate the building blocks that put you on higher ground, as you will? And when you suggest mind-blowing happiness, woo, woo, woo. Everybody wants that.
That's real stuff right there.
Come on. Now, people suffer and they are going through suffering conditions, but really everybody wants to be happy.
Yes.
Happy where you can look at yesterday, not be, enthralled by it, or held and yet now move to a happy state of liberation. Mental, spiritual, enormous liberation.
Yes.
Freedom to be.
Step 12 is freedom. There you go, right there.
Yeah, that's what it's really all about, man. I can define myself. I can, present myself, and I'm cool. Like that. And so, and so tell us a little bit about your principles, basic steps, if you will. And we'll come back with some other stuff later, but, give us an indication.
Yeah, so step 1 is healing. Right. And I was telling you, step 12 is freedom. So that's basically the path. Many of us, especially if we're doing things to harm other people, we do it from a place of not being healed, of either experiencing trauma that's large or small. But until we work through our own healing, we can't play well in the sandbox with other people, or it's difficult, it's painful. So that's the first step. The second step is spirituality, having a spiritual life. I think the statistics, at least in the US, is it's around 60% of people identify as, I want to say Christian, around 65%. And there's about 20% that don't identify with any religion. But the thing is, it doesn't matter whether you identify with a religion or not, because that's separate from your spirituality. Your spirituality is having a sense of your spiritual self. Many times we're taught about our bodies in biology class as if we're a collection of pieces, of physical pieces. And we're more than that. We do have a spiritual center. So recognizing that and learning how to support and nurture that spiritual self is critical in the sense of happiness, personal growth, personal development. You have to have a connection with that. So that's the second. The third step is having a sense of community and connection. And when you were talking about COVID, didn't that shine quite a light on what isolation was doing to us? People were getting physically ill. Besides the mental, the mental piece as well.
So, but importantly enough, now we've come to a point where we're expecting enormous benefit from having gone through it. Also, while we reflect and remember the people who we lost, but now cultivating a spirit and sense of purpose of what differences that you can make to other people in their lives, how you can empower them, because it doesn't make me look any better if I'm liberated and I can't help you be liberated. It means free of spirit, where you can define yourself, And I don't know, I'd like to see our culture move in that way where we can see the benefits of what somebody else can become and helping them get there, or what's holding you back and helping you overcome it. What's, challenging you to giving you the power and the strength to achieve, like that. So this is an amazing point of preference, a point of discussion, Trish. You've done a great work here. You go, girl.
I'm only trying to change the world one person at a time.
No, but it's a big deal. It's really a big deal. I mean, so we all have our own tough tasks to do. It's a wonderful thing, darling. She's telling me time to move on. But we all have our tough task to do. So, I have my own process when I'm looking at a tough work and strategy and thing to look at. But as a process, now, sometimes I engage in reference material information. Sometimes I consider alternative routes and directions. It's a lot like honestly, you're on a road and you're in a place you're not familiar with. So one, you have to navigate to know where you are, to navigate to get out to where you need to be. And you gotta have a process to how that works. And once you've got that uncovered and it's a fail-proof process, then ultimately we get to be successful. So I commend you, and there's so much more to understand about what you've communicated, and I'm excited about that. So tell us, and we don't have a whole lot of time, so give us your last few minutes of understanding and perspective about where you are, the book itself, and what you'd like to see people get from it.
Yeah, so what I wanted to share, because this is brand new and just launched this week, is I am launching the Mind Blowing Happiness 12-month book club. And you can go on my website, mindblowinghappiness.com, and download the Leader's Guide so that you can see all 12 steps. You'll have a little bit of information on each of the 12 steps and a Leader's Guide. So it's 12, right? So 1 month, one day out of each month for a year, get together with your girlfriends, your guy friends, your family, and have a conversation about each of the steps. So it's a wonderful way to be in community, to connect, to talk about things that matter, and to progress forward with friends and family.
That's powerful. That's very powerful.
And I'd love to link this with all our authors, because we have so many authors in our group, and they could use some of the books for the book club. I think that's such a great thing. So thank you.
I have to tell you one more thing before I kick myself. I know I don't know. Let me tell you one more thing before I kick myself. So I'm also launching on Sunday, which is 12/12 at noon, which is the other 12, the Mind Blowing Happiness Circle. So you can get information on my website about that as well. And that is a service with a fee. It's 50% off now because it's just launching on Sunday, and it's a small fee. It's like a cup of coffee. So I would love for you guys to check that out as well. That's something that I'm leading, and it'll be a live stream like this.
And it's interesting that we're talking about COVID, because we have a medical expert, Dr. John, who's going to be doing a lot with us about COVID, the Delta variant, and all the news that you need to know. He's got the answers.
Stay tuned. We're delighted to have coming up the next segment, our keynote speaker on health and liberation from illness of sorts.
So I'm going to stop the segment. For those of you who are watching and want to buy Trish's book, we'll make sure that you have the link, and Trish is launching her new book. And if you do buy the book, snap a shot, put it in the comments, and we'll give you 2 tickets to our next taping and our next show. And we will see you in January. Don't forget to subscribe, brightsideglobaltrade.org. And today we're also launching Craig Bourne's catalog, as well as we awarded him with the prestigious Brightside Empirical Review Award. As many of you know, we review hundreds of books and products and services in the year, but only once a year do we give out this award. And Dr. John was a recipient for his books of the Brightside Empirical. So Dr. John, we just gave the award to Craig today, the one that we had given you previously. So I will